If you've ever felt like you don't belong in this world, not in a tragic way, but in a way that makes you question why everyone else seems content with things that feel spiritually suffocating to you, Edgar Cayce would say you're probably asking the wrong question. You're not broken, you're not special, you're just old, and I don't mean your body. I spent years thinking I was depressed because I couldn't get excited about the things that lit up everyone around me. Career milestones felt hollow. Surface-level friendships felt exhausting. That persistent ache of, there has to be more than this, never left. Then I discovered Cayce's soul age theory, and something in my chest cracked open. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your exhaustion might actually be ancient wisdom, and why the youngest souls around you might be living exactly the life you think you want. Here's what nobody tells you about Edgar Cayce's readings on soul evolution. The signs of an old soul aren't what you think they are. They're not about being wise or spiritual or enlightened. They're about being tired in a way that sleep never fixes. Cayce, the sleeping prophet who gave over 14,000 psychic readings in a trance state, described the soul's journey through hundreds or even thousands of lifetimes. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. He didn't frame old souls as superior. He framed them as exhausted students who've been in the classroom of Earth so long they can smell the lesson coming before the teacher even speaks. You know that feeling when someone's telling you about their breakthrough, their new relationship, their promotion, their life-changing realization, and instead of feeling inspired, you just feel weary? Like you're watching someone discover fire while you're sitting there remembering when fire used to excite you too. That's not cynicism. That's soul memory. Let me tell you what happened to me 3 years ago. I was at a dinner party, and everyone was talking about their 5-year plans, where they'd be living, what car they'd drive, how much they'd have saved. And I felt this wave of something I couldn't name. Not judgment, not superiority, just this bone-deep knowing that none of it mattered the way they thought it did. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried, not because I was sad, but because I suddenly understood I'd done this before. Not this dinner party, but this chase. This belief that the next external thing would finally make me feel at home in my own life. Cayce said young souls are here to experience. Old souls are here to remember. Here's what this means for you. If you're watching this and feeling that recognition, that tightness in your throat, you're likely not on your first or even 50th rodeo. Young souls, and there's no judgment in this, only observation, are genuinely excited by novelty. New experiences feel like magic because they haven't exhausted the catalog of human experiences yet. They pursue romantic love like it's the answer, because they haven't loved and lost across centuries. They chase success because they haven't been successful and hollow in a dozen different lifetimes. But here's what nobody tells you, and this is where it gets really uncomfortable. Old souls aren't done learning. They just have a different curriculum. Stay with me, because this next part changes everything. According to Cayce's readings, which he gave to thousands of people seeking guidance, the soul doesn't reincarnate randomly. It returns to heal specific karmic patterns, to balance specific spiritual debts, and to master lessons it failed in previous lifetimes. An old soul isn't someone who's figured it all out. An old soul is someone who's failed spectacularly, repeatedly, and is now tired enough to finally try something different. You want to know the real sign of an old soul? It's not wisdom. It's humility that came from arrogance in past lives. It's gentleness that came from cruelty you can no longer stomach. It's that inexplicable patience with other people's chaos because you remember being that chaotic and knowing somehow that someone was patient with you. Young souls have sharp edges because they haven't been worn smooth yet. They know what they want because they haven't wanted it and lost it enough times to question the wanting itself. They're confident because they haven't been catastrophically wrong yet. And that's not a weakness. That's exactly where they're supposed to be. But old souls? We're the ones who flinch at our own potential for harm because we've been harmful before, even if we can't consciously remember it. We're the ones who feel guilty for privileges we haven't earned in this lifetime, because some part of us remembers earning them at someone else's expense in another. I learned this the hard way, and you're about to understand why. I used to think my inability to celebrate my own success meant I had low self-esteem. Turns out, According to Cayce's framework, I was carrying forward the memory of lifetimes where I'd achieved great things and used that power to diminish others. My soul wasn't letting me enjoy success the same way anymore. Not as punishment, but as protection, as evolution. What if the thing you're most ashamed of, your lack of ambition, your inability to care about things everyone says you should care about, your exhaustion with the game everyone else is still playing, is actually your soul refusing to repeat old patterns? Cayce described specific markers in his readings. Old souls often report feeling homesick for a place they've never been. That's not metaphor. That's soul memory of past geographies, past civilizations, past versions of Earth itself, an inexplicable grief that has no source in their current life. That's not clinical depression. That's the accumulated loss of everyone you've ever loved across lifetimes, bleeding through the veil. A resistance to accumulating possessions or status, not from virtue, but from a deep knowing that you can't take any of it with you because you already didn't, hundreds of times before. But here's the part that makes this whole framework so devastating and so liberating at the same time. Young souls get to believe their life is the only one that matters. Old souls carry the weight of knowing it's not. Let me tell you what broke me open completely. Last year, I was sitting with my grandmother as she was dying. She was 94, and in those final days, she kept talking about people I'd never heard of, calling out names, apologizing for things that made no sense in the context of her life. And then, in a moment of startling clarity, she looked at me and said, "I've been here so many times, I'm so tired, but I think I finally got it right this time." She died 3 hours later. I had her journals. I'd read them. She'd lived a humble, kind, utterly unremarkable life by society's standards. No great achievements, no wealth, no fame. Just decades of small kindnesses, fierce loyalty, quiet integrity. And in that moment, I understood what Cayce meant. She was an old soul who'd finally learned that the point isn't to be extraordinary. The point is to be kind when it costs you something. To be honest when lying would be easier. To love without keeping score. To live without needing anyone to notice. The soul doesn't age by accumulating lifetimes. It ages by finally releasing the need to prove itself through them. That's why you're exhausted. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally ready to stop performing. You're tired of the pursuit, because you've pursued everything across multiple lifetimes and discovered the same truth every time. Nothing external ever fills the void. The romantic partner doesn't complete you, the career doesn't define you, the achievement doesn't validate you. You know this not because someone told you, but because your soul remembers it. And here's what changes everything. Once you accept that you're old, that you're tired, that you've been here before and you'll be here again until you learn what you came to learn. Once you accept that, the exhaustion transforms into something else. Purpose. Because old souls aren't here to climb the ladder anymore. We're here to dismantle the belief that the ladder matters. We're here to model a different way of being human. One that doesn't require constant striving, constant proving, constant achieving. We're here to remember out loud so the young souls who are drowning in the pursuit can see there's another option. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're a teacher who's been teaching the same class for centuries, and you're finally ready to teach something true instead of something comfortable. What this means for your life right now. Stop apologizing for your lack of ambition. Stop forcing yourself to care about things your soul has outgrown. Stop trying to fit into a life template designed for souls who need those experiences to grow. You don't need them anymore. You need something else entirely. So what do you actually do with this? Because insight without integration is just spiritual entertainment. Here's your practice, and it's deceptively simple. For the next 7 days, every time you feel that exhaustion, that heaviness, that sense of, "I've done this before," stop and ask yourself one question. What am I being invited to release? Not to fix, not to improve, not to transcend, to release. Because according to Cayce, old souls don't graduate by achieving more. They graduate by needing less. Less validation, less certainty, less control, less proof that they exist and matter. The young souls around you will continue their beautiful, necessary pursuits. Let them. Your job isn't to enlighten them or warn them or show them the futility. Your job is to be so at peace with your own enoughness that it gives them permission to eventually rest too. Write this down somewhere, you'll see it. I am not broken. I am complete. I am old. I am ready. And then, and this is the part that will either terrify you or liberate you, live like someone who has nothing left to prove because you've already proven everything across lifetimes and discovered that proof was never the point. Here's what I want you to reflect on, not for me, but for yourself. What's the one achievement, relationship, or identity you've been clinging to because you're terrified that without it, you'll disappear? That's your soul's next lesson. That's why you came back this time. Next time, I'll share why old souls often struggle with abundance, not because we don't deserve it, but because we remember what it cost us before. It's the piece that finally makes this all make sense. You don't belong in this world the way young souls do. You never will again. And that's not tragedy. That's completion calling you home while you're still breathing. If you felt that recognition in your chest, that knowing that has no rational explanation, you're old, you're tired, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Welcome to the final class.